Before we begin, here on HeroQuest fans, big shout out to Marcus over at Dungeon Master. Check out Dungeon Master on YouTube. Pretty cool guy. Um, if you don't speak German, don't worry. You can actually turn on subtitles on his videos and you can auto translate to English. It's not perfect, but it gets the point across. The guy's a really big HeroQuest fan, and he is reporting live from Spiel Essen in Germany, which has been going on. Now, he has it down several times that the big reveals seem to have happened already on the 3rd, and he doesn't expect that the new announcements are going to be on the 6th today. So he's going live in 5 hours, according to his page. And I am really interested to see what he has to say. So some of the things in this video may become obsolete based on his insights. But I just wanted to put together one video, if you weren't sick of hearing about it already, of all the stuff that I know about First Light based on reporting. So just going back to the beginning, I did have an anonymous source that told me some things. So early on, the idea was Hasbro Gaming, Avalon Hill. So the higher ups were seemed to be the ones that were doing this more than just the individuals. I mean, there was always a desire to get HeroQuest back on store shelves, and the question was how to do that. So the big idea, don't know who thought of it, but they decided, okay, we're going to make a deal with Target and we're going to get a lower priced, smaller box, an alternate starter kit for HeroQuest to go on store shelves and regular retail shops. So you wouldn't have to go to like a hobby store, a friendly local game shop, in order to find HeroQuest for, 140 bucks or somewhere around there. Now, it's true prices of the HeroQuest game system 2021 or 2022, take your pick. Those have gone down quite a bit, so you can find it on Amazon for like 75, $70. It may vary in other countries, but anyway, they were going to come up with this price point of $50 for a starter set. So that's what we'd heard. And the anonymous source said that they had heard about plans to make an all cardboard release, or possibly to have the heroes be cardboard but the monsters be plastic and new sculpts. That turned out to be incorrect. Now, I always said with whenever you get anonymous stuff, you have to take it with a grain of salt because it could be 100% legitimate, but if it changes, you could always say, well, their plans changed, or maybe those are plans for the future and not for right now. So it's like you can never be wrong. So that being what it is, rumors are a big source of information in the HeroQuest community as we talk about things, just because unfortunately there has been a lot less transparent communication, a lot less teasers since the layoffs. We know this. So if you don't hang around Instagram or X a lot, you're gonna not really know what's going on. I mean, it's there or it's the conventions. So we do rely a lot on these leaks. We rely on guerrilla reporting. So a lot of it's come from those sources, but thankfully a lot of things have been officially confirmed. So we have some things to talk about finally. So First Light, we have an official release date for the United States. The official release date is January 12th, 2025. Now, if you go to the Target.com website, this is non-sponsored. We always heard that it would be Target. The suspicion is that it will start as a Target exclusive and eventually it'll go to other stores. Maybe after a year, just a guess. So you'll be able to see it in Walmart, GameStop, Best Buy, stores like that. But let me just say right now, for the record, that is not confirmed yet. Right now, all we know is it's a Target exclusive. For all we know, it's a Target exclusive forever. Probably not, but right now it's a Target exclusive. So that means if you're trying to buy it in the US, you're going to have to buy it at Target or order it through their website. And if you go to the website, it will say you got to register to pre-order, and you have to get it. Well, you'll get it on the 12th or shortly thereafter, is what it says. Limit 2 per customer. Now, some fans have told me, because I'm not a big pre-order person to begin with, I don't pre-order from stores like this. They said, well, Target in the past, what they've done is they'll send you emails saying you need to confirm your pre-order. Like when they get a stock in, it's like you got to confirm it, and if you don't confirm it, they delay it or they cancel it. I guess it makes a certain amount of sense, but people have complained in the past saying that, if they're not watching it like a hawk, they miss it. And one of the things people who try to sell me on the idea of a pre-order is to say, "Oh, it's so great because you can just order something, forget all about it, and then it's like a gift to yourself. It just shows up at your door, and you're like, "Oh, I forgot I even bought this." you know. So that's another reason why I don't like to pre-order stuff, because if you do that, like I'm constantly like worrying about it. Like, oh man, are they going to charge my card? Is it really coming in? Is it canceled? Is it delayed? Should I be worried? Should I be at the door waiting for it? So anyway, it kind of defeats the purpose to me. Plus, I feel like you don't get it uh, any earlier than anybody else necessarily. So usually, what I do is I wait till pre-orders end, and I just order something. And if I hear that a lot of people are getting it shipped early, even though it's pre-order, I'll quote unquote place a pre-order, but only in that case. But that's me. All that aside, that's the US. Now for Europe, if you go to Hasbro Pulse and change it to Europe or United Kingdom, EU or UK, it will actually say February 4th, 2025. So different date. And I'm just going to check the page real quick because at the time I first checked it, it did show this, but it may have changed. Okay, so this is good. This is very good. Let's hop on over here. So this is Hasbro Pulse page. And formerly, when you clicked on okay, they call it HeroQuest The Awakening. This is auto-translated. Um, okay, it shows a picture of the English box. Before it was showing the old, much maligned Clark Mitchell, supposedly but not admittedly AI cover that everyone complained about. I mean, there was a huge backlash. I mean, relatively huge for our small community about this old cover. Well, when you go to the page, like it would show the new cover. So this is which version is this? Should pay attention to what I'm clicking on. Um, I guess this is the UK version. No. Okay, let's click on the Spanish version. So the Spanish version, okay, they've just changed the image to the same generic image for all of these pages. But that tells me, yeah, you can't always trust these CGI images, these promotional images, because they get things wrong, like the dice are the wrong color, or the cards are the wrong scale. It's supposed to give you a general idea of what you're buying, but colors may vary and all that stuff. But for a while, they were showing pictures of the old cover. So why is it not showing this? Okay, 2 seconds ago it was. Okay, so it's showing this same cover for all of them. This is the new cover. I mean, don't judge a book by its cover, but we talked extensively about this. Why is the cover so important? Because the fact is, for the people who didn't grow up playing HeroQuest 30 years ago, or yeah, 40 years ago. Sorry, let's be exact. 35 years ago, 1989. So 35 years ago, 34 years ago, depending on which version you started with. If you're not one of those people, um, or if you picked it up later, when you're going to encounter HeroQuest, is either you're going to be hearing people talking about it online, HeroQuest this, HeroQuest that. What the heck is HeroQuest? Let me look it up. Oh, it's this thing. Interesting. Or you're going to be just walking through the store, and what they're banking on is you're walking through the store, you're browsing through the game section, and you see HeroQuest, and you go, huh, I wonder what that is. And you pick it up and go, this looks fun. It's only $50. Let me buy this for myself, buy this for my gaming group, buy this for my game night with my friends, buy this for my child for Christmas or whatever. It's, kind of an impulse buy idea. How could it be an impulse buy if it's $50? Well, when you consider these other big game boxes like $100, $135, those are like those are for hardcore players. Those are for people who are like thoroughly invested. They've made a decision. I want to invest in this hobby. But this little bitty box, I mean, you could be buying Monopoly, you could be buying Risk, Clue, one of these other games that are very well known. Now, those games tend to be cheaper, probably not $50, but still, you could imagine seeing this at your Barnes and Noble, your Best Buy, your GameStop. I've heard that GameStop doesn't carry board games anymore, but I was just in a store today or yesterday, and they had like Monopoly, they had Five Nights at Freddy's, they had some other game. It was a really, really small rack of games, like probably, not a permanent thing, but they used to stock more. They used to stock HeroQuest. I mean, they had game systems, they had the latest expansion. So who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, I asked them, "Are you going to be carrying First Light?" And they said no. So Target is not in these other countries. So what's it going to be? Well, they have officially said that the February 4th release for these other countries are going to be through various retailers. So whatever the retailers are in Spain, Italy, Germany, I'm not sure if France is on here yet. Let me just check. So some of this stuff, yeah, it says Spanish version, German version. Okay, well, at the moment, it looks like we only have English, German, and Spanish for First Light. So what about Italian? What about French? Who knows? But at least at the moment, it looks like they have plans for multilingual release. But it'll be other stores other than Target in these other countries. So anyway, that's what that is. And it's all pre-order stuff right now. So you can't just buy it. And the way Hasbro Pulse works is they don't charge your account until it is ready to ship. So you just basically are on a list. Now you'd have to cancel it if you don't want it. You have a limited window to do that, I believe. So anyway, so now that out of the way, what do we actually know about First Light? Well, here are the details from Hasbro Pulse. Everything you need to start playing, designed for newcomers and fans alike. The HeroQuest First Light game system includes 10 unique quests, 100 plus pieces, and a beginner's friendly rulebook to jump into the action. Okay, that's key, beginner's friendly. I haven't seen the rulebook, but what I've seen so far looks like they are tweaking the rules. So from the 2021 rules, which were based on the 1990 rules of North America, the cards are more concise, they are more specific. So we've seen some of these cards already, and they basically have nerfed some of the things. They made it a little less ambiguous. Now, as Zargon, you know, and all fans of Classic HeroQuest know this, if you don't like the rules, you can tweak them. A lot of people tweak the rules. Almost everybody does at some point or other, because sometimes the rules are a little vague or it causes a problem. Like you're following the rules as written and you just run into a problem and your game is going to be broken. So you just make a decision. Okay, it's going to work like this now. And you just go with it. But they've made specific changes. And we can talk more about those changes later. But basically, some of the spells are nerfed in the sense that they've cut off certain interpretations that would have made them more powerful. They were popular with a lot of people. Now, some people probably prefer the nerfs, prefer the tweaks, but others will dislike them. So that's how it is. Now, we've also seen the reference cards have been updated to include more information, so you can just have like a poker-sized card that you can flip over, and it's got the majority of the rules that you as a player need to know as a hero player. Because Zargon's the one behind the screen. Zargon knows all the stuff and has to have the most knowledge of the game. But I think those are all good things. So instead of saying simplified rules, they mean beginner friendly rules. So it's not that the gameplay has been changed to make the game like less complex. Really what they're saying is just better explained for somebody who's not already used to the game and how it plays, which is a good thing. I think that's good. So that's positive. All right, so continuing on my commentary here. So as it says, immersive fantasy adventure in this standalone game, play as Zargon the Game Master or one of the mythic heroes to team up to battle monsters and conquer quests to defeat Sargon's evil forces. Now, when they say mythic heroes, they're not talking about the mythic tier from HasLab. They're just talking about those 4 archetypes: the barbarian, elf, dwarf, wizard. Detailed dragon and 4 hero miniatures, the semi-cooperative strategy game. Introduces the highly detailed dragon miniature, also includes 4 mythic hero See, they keep calling it mythic. Just disregard that, because all it is the 4 classic heroes, and they're just new sculpts of them, and we'll see that in a minute. 10 thrilling, I think they meant to say thrilling quests, featuring 10 fresh quests written by the original game designer Stephen Baker, correct. You can also create your own stories and build your own quests for limitless replayability, correct. 2-sided game board, 100 plus components, explore a double-sided game board that changes as you delve deeper into the world, plus 67 full-color standees, 102 stunningly illustrated game cards, and more. So we've talked about the fact that you've got the 4 heroes in plastic, and they're 4 brand new sculpts, and I think they look pretty good. And they're based on feedback. Like, people said what they wanted, and they tried to give them that. And Doug Hopkins, great, great guy, great presenter, big fan, clearly, at Gen Con, he talked up those things, saying, hey, if you already own like all the HeroQuest stuff, you're still going to want First Light because of these things we've put in specifically to attract fans, longtime fans. And then it also says compatible with all HeroQuest expansions, an epic addition to any HeroQuest collection, the strategy board game for adults and teens. Well, I would say you can go younger with that. I mean, we started playing HeroQuest when we were like, well, I was about 12, I believe, but um, some members of our family were like 8, 6 even. It's a little tough for 6. If you're a precocious child, you can probably do it. But yeah, the original game was intended for ages 9 and up in Europe, and in the US it was 10 and up, they guessed. But yeah, adults and teens. It's compatible with all HeroQuest expansion packs and the original 10 quests from the 2021 HeroQuest game system. Okay, that's a mistake. There were 14 quests in the original. I don't know why they put 10. It's just a typo. Okay, free companion app. The app can be your digital game master. It takes on the role of Zargon, so all the players can be heroes, or you can play solo. To download, scan the code in the box. Well, the companion app works regardless. It's a free app. It doesn't have ads. The only thing is it collects anonymous data on you. So there you go. But yeah, you can use the app. You don't even have to buy any of the stuff. You could use a classic game that you had if you wanted. So that's the information. Yeah, pre-order item right now. This game is in English. Expected availability date may be subject to change. Items may arrive earlier or later than anticipated without notice. Payment will be collected once item is ready for delivery. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, all that stuff out of the way. Let's get to some images. Looking at some images. So these are all freely available online. Actually, there's a few that were taken at Gen Con. So I've seen the images that have been shared of all the quests. So I've actually seen all those. Now, people who downloaded the companion app remember that version 4.0 on iOS and version 4.1 on Android OS, um, those have all 10 quests of First Light. You can play all 10 quests if you want to. All the gameplay is there, all the narration is there, it's fully playable. If you updated your app to 4.2, you can only play quest 1. So they've removed the other quests. So there is a program out there, I've been told. I haven't tried it myself, but it will work if you're using BlueStacks on your PC or if you're using an app on, I guess, your phone or tablet. I don't know if it works on both OSs, but it's called Pure APK, so Alpha Papa Kilo APK, and it lets you roll back the update, so you can go back to the previous version. So my advice to people is just turn off your auto updates. Yeah, it's going to be tough because you're going to have to look online for the old version. So if you know how to do that, maybe uninstall it and try again. But yeah, that's just if you want to play it in the app. I mean, if you don't care about that, you don't need to. But if you want to see spoilers, I suppose if you're Zargon, you want to think ahead, start planning your campaign. You could certainly do that. I don't think it's necessary though, because unlike Jungles of Delthrak or Rise of the Dread Moon, where there's a lot of original, brand new stuff, they don't really lay a whole bunch of new stuff on you. So if you played Hero Quest before ever, you can pick up First Light pretty easily. It has that spirit vibe and simplicity of the original game. Whereas those other expansions, Zargon's going to need to do a little bit of study beforehand, so you're not flipping pages and going, "Huh, how does that work again? Oh, I forgot to do the extra thing in here that's here." Now they do introduce some new rules, but we'll get into that as we go here. So, all right, images. So these are from Gen Con. I'm just going to share these once again to show you. So this is shared through Ribby. He noticed these way before I did. But yeah, this is what the new reference card looks like. So the old reference card had the HeroQuest logo on one side and then what you could do on your turn on the other. These new ones are double-sided, so it tells you all the things a hero can do on his turn on one side, and then it tells you how to do combat on the other. That's great. So it tells you how skulls are hits, white shields are blocks, monster shields. The black shields are blocks for monsters. You don't count other things. Body points to 0 means you're dead, etc. So that's that first image. And then you flip the card over. That's what it looks like on the other side. I doubt this will change at all, but I mean, Gen Con was August 1st through 4th. It's now October 6th, and the images were shown October 3rd. So they had a month. They could have updated things, but to me, it looks like really nothing has been changed. Now, they mentioned 102 game cards. Well, I was actually digging out my 2021 HasLab game system, which was actually the same as the first version of the game system that was released into retail. And I counted up all the cards, and it comes to 102. So it's the same, well, 101, I should say. It's the same exact number of cards, except they've added one card, the Dragon Monster card. So if you eliminate that one, 101 cards are what you have originally. You have, I'm not going to run down all the numbers again, but some of the basics. Okay, you have 24 treasure cards still. So no new treasure cards. They've tweaked the text on pretty much everything, just like Spirit Queen's Torment and Prophecy of Telor when they went from Mythic to retail. But yeah, that's basically what it is. They've tweaked rather than added. So there's been some speculation. Fairweather Man, good channel, check him out on YouTube. He's speculated that well maybe they'll be adding new dread spells or new artifacts. There's at least one new artifact, the Hearthkin Horn. Why doesn't that have a card? Well, the thing is, at Gen Con at least, all the artifacts were there, which they have to be because if they're going to be compatible with all game system and expansions that are previously released, they would need all those artifacts because you don't. The artifact doesn't come in the Frozen Horror box. Well, a couple of them do, but if you want to find Borin's armor, well, you've got to have it in the game system. So I've looked, and I think all but two of the game system artifacts are found in the normal course of First Light. And so, without spoiling it, it's like you're going to need those cards. So the open slots for these new powers and new cards, if they want to have a physical card, well, there's just no place to put them. Except the game system did have some duplicates. So there were 3 helmets, 3 shields. So just one of each of those cards identical. You don't need to because when you find the item, you look at the card, you write it on the character sheet. You don't need to hold on to the card. That's something that was done in the European version where you're supposed to hold on to the card to show that you had it. But even there, when they released the Adventure Design Kit, they gave you a new character sheet that was like extra large and just said, yeah, just write it on here. You don't have to hold on to the card because the card limiting supply thing was a mechanic in the European version and the Japanese version, but not in the North American version. And it specifically says in the new version from 2021, cards don't limit supply. The concept of the armory remains. even though it's now a deck of cards, of equipment cards, just like the first version. But cards don't limit supply. So they could eliminate some of those duplicates and then put in extra things if they wanted. I mean, why do you need two crossbows and two battle axes and two um, long swords? You don't. You could replace all those duplicates with new cards if you wanted. So far, we haven't seen those cards though, except inside the companion app. Inside the companion app, there is an image of the Hearthkin horn, and we'll get to that in a moment here. I know I keep saying that, but we will get to it. Okay, so here's some more images. So this is from Bohemius. He shared this from the companion app. So as you can see, inside the companion app, we actually have the reverse side of the board. So the board in First Light, it's the same exact layout as the previous game system. Same number of rooms, squares the same size, all that stuff. Except the art is redone. So the blue room is still the blue room, but it looks a little different, like the art, like it's new art. If you flip the board over, and the board felt a little thinner at Gen Con, just guessing. It's a six-fold instead of a quad-fold, so it fits into that smaller box. It's about the size of those big expansion boxes instead of the giant game system box. Anyway, you flip it over and it's called the Caverns. And so you've got all these rooms. And yes, I looked through all my expansions that exist and tried to see, well, could you recreate the caverns using just those room tiles that are included in, all these expansions? And the answer is you can't. You can't really recreate it because there's a lot of 3x5 rooms that are not very common. There's more, I think, 3x4s than actually come with those. I mean, yes, you could buy extra copies of some of those boxes, but ultimately it's pretty silly. If you're just dead set on not buying First Light, your best bet would just be to print your own board or print out those room tiles and just lay them on top of the board. But really you don't even have to do that. You could just, because not every quest is going to use every single room on the board. It's always going to be a fraction of them. So you could just print the tiles that you know you're going to need, or just take rooms that you already have and just repurpose them and say, well, it's supposed to be a 3x5 room, but I'm going to use a 4x4 room. Like, what's the difference? Most of the time when you go into a room in HeroQuest, there's going to be maybe one piece of furniture, two monsters, and a door. That's usually what it is. Maybe it'll be a trap or two. I mean, occasionally, yes, you do get these rooms that are just packed with stuff. There's four pieces of furniture and, four monsters, uh, two secret doors, three traps, a bunch of other doors. But most of the time, it's not. And so the size of the room doesn't really matter that much. So you could fudge it to your purposes. But anyway, this is just an example of what it looks like in the app. You don't have to use the app, but notice something here. See these gratings? What are those? Well, if you open up the remake game system, so the original game didn't have this. You had the double blocked squares, the two stone tiles that take up two squares. In the original version, you flip those over and it's just black on the other side. It's just nothing, right? I mean, you could make it into a long pit if you wanted, I suppose. But in the remake, they decided, okay, we're going to use every side of everything. So you flip over the two tiles and it's a grating. Well, what is it for? Well, just whatever you want it to be or nothing. So it was just kind of a homebrew idea. Use this in your own unique adventures. Well, finally, they've officially decided, okay, here's a use for the grating. So it actually appears as an icon in the app to show you this is what you want, we want you to do. You flip it over, maybe a monster comes out or something like that. So this is the caverns. All right, enough about that for the moment here. So Hasbro Pulse has a thing where it says 3 per customer. So somebody shared this. I think this was Bohemius again. Yes, saying yes, you can get 3 per customer if you want to. So there may be other websites out there that are official retailers for First Light, and I just don't know about them. But um, the idea is, yeah, they're going to try to get First Light out to as many stores as they can. So hopefully it goes well for the future of HeroQuest, because they're expanding. They're not just catering to those of us who grew up with HeroQuest 35 years ago. They're trying to get new people in as well. Because yeah, it's great. People buy the game, They introduce it to their kids, their grandkids, their nieces and nephews. But they're trying to expand. And there's a lot of countries that had HeroQuest back in the day that still don't have it. This was from Dungeon Master. He shared this from Spiel Essen. So pre-order available exclusively at Target in the U.S. and at various retailers worldwide. Pre-order now. Now, this today is the last day of Spiel Essen, and Luca is the next one, and I think it starts October 30th and goes into the first week of November. So that'll be the next one. So that Italian convention may be where they announce more stuff. Some people are thinking, hey, the next thing will be Wizards of Morcar. That'll be the next expansion. But we don't know that for sure. That's just speculation. That's wishful thinking, or maybe it'll be a good prediction. So there was some talk about the Target site. It was blank for a while. It was saying out of stock for a while. Okay, so this was the big. I was the most excited about this because they finally showed the back of the box. At Gen Con, there was no back of the box. It was only the front because they'd recently had the blow up with the cover. People were upset. And so they were saying, okay, here's what you really want. You don't want something that looks like AI, but we didn't have the back. And so now there's the back. Now, once again, with these things, as every child of the 80s knows, colors may vary, actual product may vary. But here's the miniatures. So as you can see, the everything is cardboard except for the little clear plastic round bases that the doors and the monsters have to support them. And of course, the dice are still plastic and still have the squared off corners. The furniture is all these, they're all flat tiles, so it's different than the Brazilian version, which had like paper craft for two of the furniture pieces, and the rest were half plastic, half cardboard, just like the classic HeroQuest. These are all flat tiles. And as far as I remember, the standees, these cardboard standees for the monsters, were smooth, as were the furniture tiles. But the regular tiles, like for stone blocks, secret doors, um, pit traps, that sort of thing, those skulls, those were still like linen finish. Okay, the board had a smooth finish. It was not linen like the big game system, but the cards were the same quality. They had the linen finish on them, poker size, same artwork, just the text was tweaked. This GM screen, which I call that Zargon, but I guess officially it's Mentor. Do they look the same? Have we ever seen Zargon? Who knows? But this was a little bit bigger, I think. At Gen Con, people pointed this out that it was a little too big for the box, so maybe they shrunk it down slightly so it'll fit perfectly. That's to keep the stuff secret. Now there's a black void and these open doors, but everything has its equivalent. So if you look at the big game system with its plastic, every plastic figure or piece of furniture has its cardboard equivalent in this box. So you've got multiple designs of orcs. So I mean, you could use these as a painting guide when you get your plastic. There's even little round tokens for the rats because rats are used in some quests, said Doug. Quote from Gen Con. And I was looking, and the only official quests that use the rats are the Crypt of Perpetual Darkness, the Joe Manganiello supposedly proprietary quest book. So does that mean that they're still holding out hope that that's going to be re-released? People are wondering if maybe that'll be one of the announcements. Who knows? You'll notice with the furniture tiles, there's a black void around some of these furniture pieces, and that's because the plastic doesn't necessarily take up as much room as it's supposed to on the map. So a lot of these furniture pieces actually are supposed to take up 6 squares. So if you're standing next to it, it impedes your movement. I mean, unless you decide that it doesn't, but it's supposed to impede your movement. So they made the tile the exact size that it's supposed to be, rather than you have to position the chair so that it covers more squares than just if you know pushed it into the corner. If I'm explaining it right. Notice the dice, the movement dice, are red again with white pips, white spots. So in the classic Hero Quest, they've always been called the red dice. Roll the red dice. So sometimes you have to do that when you're doing mind point checks to resist spells. You roll them for movement. Well, in First Light, in the text that we saw at Gen Con, they started calling them the movement dice instead of the red dice. And coincidentally, the dice they showed us were white with red pips. And then we were noticing these differences, and Doug said, "Well, I don't think that's final. Those colors aren't final." And he said it just kind of as a sweeping statement. So we weren't sure if he was referring to both the movement dice and the combat dice, because the combat dice were kind of a bone color or ivory color instead of just white, bright white. In this picture, to me, they look like kind of bone colored, but it could just be because there's kind of like an overall yellow light on everything. So I wouldn't put too much stock into that, but it's possible. It's possible that these dice, these combat dice, are a different color than the previously released set. And some people would prefer that. Some people would be upset about that. But if you go on Etsy right now, there's people selling bone colored dice. So consider that for what you will. Those people have preferences. But I think having the red dice still red may seem like a small thing, but actually it's a big deal because all these other expansions refer to the red dice, the red dice, the red dice. And if you don't have red dice in your box, you may be confused. Well, what are they talking about? So to avoid having to answer all those questions, they just went with the standard. That's fine. I personally wish they would have used shiny gold pips as the original, but they probably have a big stock of these generic dice. And the dragon, it's a 2 square dragon, so it is different than Joe Manganiello's dragon. And the plastic that we saw was not just plain gray like the Dread Warriors, the Dread Sorcerer, or some piece of the furniture from the remake version. It was kind of a steel gray, kind of a silvery, almost dull metallic color. And if you held it up to the light, you could actually see the light kind of penetrating a bit through the bat wings on the back of the dragon. So it kind of had a cool effect. Anyway, I'm expecting something very similar to that, if not identical, in the final release. Because it's always possible they've changed some of these things, but there just isn't much time. The quest booklet, I want to say it had a generic cover at Gen Con. It didn't have this new yellow fly designed cover art. It might have had the old Clark Mitchell art. But anyway, this is what it is. So Stephen Baker, yes, the OG designer, designed these 10 quests. From what we played of the first quest and what I know about the other quests, it does have a very Hero Quest feel to it. So if you've played any of Prophecy of Telor, if you played the classic game system, you know what to expect. It's in that same flavor, that same feeling. There is more talk about some of the characters. So Sir Ragnar is in there, Cassandra, the Witch Queen, who's from Return of the Witch Lord, is mentioned. Mentor does a lot of chatting with the heroes. There's kind of teases of future things that happen in Keller's Keep, Return of the Witch Lord, and even in Rise of the Dread Moon. But you wouldn't have had to play those to have fun with it. The storyline does start after the rescue of Sir Ragnar. So in the original game system, the trial is first, then the rescue of Sir Ragnar, and then First Light. But the way Doug has presented it and the advertising has presented it is you don't have to have played the game system to play this. You can start here and just play this and then play any expansion you want after this. You don't have to go back to the game system. But if you already have the game system and you want to play it in maybe story order, you would play the trial, Rescue Sir Ragnar, then this, and then you would play Quest 13 and 14 of the game system. This was Hispa Zargan's idea. And then you'd play everything else. But yeah, I like how whenever they say digital Zargon and then they show a picture of Mentor, I think this is their way of appeasing people who grew up thinking that this guy was Zargon, this bearded gentleman holding the book is the evil sorcerer. I mean, maybe they look very similar. Gandalf, Saruman, they look very similar. One's good, one's evil. All right, let's look at some more pictures. So once again, we've got the First Light cover, good quality picture. Now this was the old Clark Mitchell cover, just to show you the change. So this is what we had before. So we'll just get that. So this was the one that everybody was mad about, and thankfully it looks like it's gone. But if you look at some of the publicity pictures, they do still show this image. I think they're slowly removing those. So it would be like the new cover, but then they would show this image for the Quest booklet or something like that. But this was overwhelmingly rejected by the fans online, and for good reason. There were a lot of anomalies in the picture. It looked sloppy. There was a lot of repurposed artwork from other boxes. So even though I kind of like the retro style, looking at all the issues people mention, they're 100% right. So I'm glad that this is out and the new one is in. So even the folks in Germany will get the new and better cover, which is great. Okay, so here's a picture of the caverns. And actually, it was pointed out to me, another one of the fans, sorry I'm forgetting your name exactly, but one of these fans pointed out that in the 4.2 app update, they actually removed the graphic from the file. So some people know this stuff. They removed the graphic of the caverns. So I'm guessing they did that on purpose so that people that were digging into the files, into the APK, would not be able to pull it out and just print it out all these months ahead. So they are really trying to lock this down. It's kind of like both things are happening at once. On the one hand, they want people to get interested and dig into it and learn about it, but they also don't want people to like be sneaky and just like copy and paste and not feel like they need to buy it. But as Doug said, they are enticing the classic fans. They have those 4 new sculpts of heroes. They have the new dragon sculpt. And yeah, the other stuff, it's like, does that really matter how a spell works or something? You could just write that information down and just play it if you care about it. But the new plastic, there's a boot tile because the boot was removed from the image. That's just one of those classic images of the boot that you find treasure inside. Tucked into the toe of an old boot, you find a valuable gem worth 50 gold coins. Well, you don't search corridors for treasure anymore in these rules, but it's still a nostalgic thing. So we joked about giving out boot tiles, and actually I did it. We printed out boot tiles and gave them out at Gen Con. But anyway, on the reverse side of the board, the normal side, you have the boot tile. The reverse side, you have the caverns. So some of these images are wrong. These dice do not have black pips on the movement dice. That's incorrect. But you can look at images of the game system right now on the Hasbro Pulse page, and unless they fixed them in the last couple days, they still have these black dice there. So that's a mistake. So they're white pips, actually. But yeah, there's the standees. There's the heroes, the combat dice. Now these look bright white here, but you can't always trust the colors. So, but yeah, this is what the caverns look like. And clearly, these are the arena. So if you have against the Ogre Horde, yes, you could play this portion of it without owning First Light because you just put down the arena tile 7x9. Is that right? And then these 4x5 rooms, connecting rooms, because these rules are used at least once, maybe twice in First Light. But the way it is like so Patrick made it clear at Gen Con, they do not plan to make expansions in the future that will only be compatible with First Light, but not with the classic game system, or the remake game system, I should say. So this will just be for First Light only, and whatever original quests you make with it. But yeah, notice the size of these rooms. So not all these rooms are going to be used at all times. I mean, you might be teleporting from room to room. You might have some, pathways through these rooms. You might be going to the arena. You might be going back and forth. But it just gives you more options for design. And I think that's a cool idea. And yes, this is really what it looks like. These are 1 by 1 inch squares. Okay, this dice rolling box. You could say, okay, this is a digital concept, but because those corners are not nearly that sharp on the actual dice. But it looks like this could be a cardboard box, like inner box that's included. Now, this was not shown at Gen Con, but maybe they've got room inside the box to do this and have a little dice tray because people were asking for a dice tray. People want that. Now, the Jungles of Delthrak dice, which are being sold, and they're supposed to be delivered December 1st. Right now, they're pre-order. At least one European fan has mentioned that they were already shipped like early. Now the Europeans are getting the tin with the 6 green dice inside them, but not the rolling tray, which is being made by Fanroll in limited edition quantities apparently, which has made people like me a little bit annoyed because I don't like the FOMO sales tactic. I don't like the limited release stuff, but I suppose that it is what it is. But if they give us something like this would make a lot of people satisfied because do you really need a fancy snap together, faux leather tray with like a very specific thing on it, for art? It's been stamped with the HeroQuest logo. Well, cardboard, I mean, a lot of people would be fine with this. These sort of inner trays came with the original HeroQuest, but are not part of the new HeroQuest game system. So the old one, like I would just, as Zargon, I would just fill this with monsters and I just keep it next to my GM screen so I could have easy access to, oh, you need an orc. There's an orc. Or when you're putting everything away, you file all the furniture or the pile up the tiles, whatever. But you could roll your dice into this too instead of having them bouncing all over the table. Some people like the sound it makes when it hits the cardboard or wood or felt or whatever you use. But I think this is probably just cardboard. Okay, so this is a digital image, of course. This is what it looks like on the table. As you can see, the orc and the abomination, or Famir in the original game. It's the same as it's always been, no changes. Okay, now let's look at these cards closely. So this is again an image that's been put out recently. So whether you're looking at Target or Hasbro Pulse or one of these other pages sharing the promo materials, look at Tempest here. This is how it looked to us at Gen Con. A spell may be cast on any one monster in your line of sight. Target misses their next turn. There's no description of the spell, like there's no lore text or flavor text. Envelops the monster in a small whirlwind. Why did they leave that out? Doug didn't have a specific answer except he thought, well, maybe they did this for translation reasons. Maybe it's easier they'll have more room for the text if they didn't have a lore explanation. But nevertheless, that's what it is. Veil of Mist. Yeah, no change there. Courage. Okay, this is a change. Now, there's definitely people who will say, well, it was this way all along. Back in 1990, I knew that it was only good for one single attack, and that's it. And I say, well, good for you. A lot of people didn't. A lot of people didn't think that's what it meant. So the spell may be cast on any one hero in your line of sight, including yourself. The next time that hero attacks, only? No. Next time the hero attacks, they roll 2 additional attack dice. The spell ends after this attack, so that's new. Or the moment that hero has no monster in the line of sight, the spell may be cast once per quest. So this makes it explicit, what I gave Avalon Bill such a hard time about and apologize for way back, which was to say the Avalon Hill team, this is how they intend Courage to work. Now, as they've always said, you can do it however you want at your table. In the second edition from 1990 in Europe, they specifically said courage lasts and lasts and lasts until you have no more monsters in your line of sight. Period. So you could just keep on going. You can just keep on encountering monsters. You can keep monsters in sight. You can keep on with the courage. Now, in the very first edition from 1989, it was a single attack. So it was exactly like a potion of strength. You get it one time, make a big attack, and that's it. In the 1990 North American version, the wording of the spell was a little more ambiguous. It's kind of like they took the first and second editions and kind of crammed them together. So some people read it as it's only a single attack. A lot more people and it spread through the internet. So people were saying, yeah, it keeps on going, it keeps on going. And so that's how a lot of us treated it. But it seemed like a really good spell. And I kind of don't like that it's weakened here. But I mean, there's ways you could do it. You could say, well, maybe a beginner wizard or spellcaster, whatever, because the elf could have fire as well. Maybe a beginner version of the spell is just one attack. And if the monsters dodge around a corner so you can't see them, well, you wasted the spell. But maybe a champion who's completed 3 quests or more, or 5 quests, or 10 quests, has quit it, has leveled up. Maybe that spell is the stronger version of the spell. So there's different ways you could do it. But in First Light, for the first time, they've specifically clarified that it lasts for a single attack and not even a single attack because the monsters could move out of the way and cancel your spell and waste it. Other changes here. So I can confirm, I mean, what they're showing here is what I saw from memory. Pass through rock. Now, it doesn't say anything about like the white walls on the. I mean, people debate these rules endlessly, but the white walls that separate rooms, like those are walls, right? But you can also make walls with the single stone blocks and the double stone blocks and the fallen block rubble. You can create walls with those. In the app, they let you pass through those walls as well. But for some reason, there's a mistake in the app. So, like a rubble tile, you can't pass through no matter what. You always have to just go around it. It's weird. Doesn't make any sense. So, I've never understood the spell that way. Doesn't give any explanation here that says that there's a difference between types of walls. Just a wall is a wall. Also, the app has an issue because there's other ways to pass through rock besides the pass through rock spell or spell scroll. There's also the Elven Cloak of Passage. There's the Cloak of Shadows. For some reason, those abilities let you pass through white walls, but they don't let you pass through stone blocks. Doesn't make any sense, but there you go, because it doesn't say that on the card. And they didn't revise those at all. Moving on. Summon Undead is the same, but I mean, you can see the text is slightly changed. Determine the undying servants that rise. There's the dagger. It's lost forever once thrown. So you can see the wording has changed. So if you had one of these cards and then one of the, the 2021 version next to it, you would immediately be able to tell the difference because the text is different. Hazard. That crunching sound did not sound good. People made fun of that. See, they've added little lore text, little flavor text, little reactions to it. Because you could read that, maybe at least the first time you do it. The stone beneath your feet gives way. You fall into a shallow hole and lose 1 body point. Your turn immediately ends. You may climb out and take your normal movement on your next turn. Return this card to the bottom of the deck. So it's reworded, the same exact mechanics. So these are treasure cards. And you've got these artifact cards. So you got the Ring of Return. Turn the Hands of Time just this once. So they've added little, I call this flavor text. You've got the mechanic, the game mechanic explained, but then you've also got this little like RPG thing telling you how it's supposed to work, the imaginative way. So they've added that for all these cards, nearly every single one, except for Tempest for some reason. They've got the heroes, and of course, everybody noticed this right away. The dwarf now starts with a hand axe. Now, in Hero Quest, the miniature it's not like Warhammer where it has to be holding the exact weapon and the exact gear that it's got. So, like the wizard is holding a staff. He doesn't start with a staff, he starts with a dagger. The barbarian has this huge, two-handed sword. He starts with a broadsword. It's not the long sword. Um, the elf appears to be wearing plate armor. She doesn't start with plate armor. The wizard appears to have this cloak. He doesn't start with a wizard's cloak. So, nevertheless, there were people who wanted the dwarf to start with a hand axe, and this looks like a battle axe. Of course, it's one edge, not two. But nevertheless, he starts with a hand axe now. So now each hero has a unique weapon. So the elf starts with a short sword, wizard starts with a dagger, barbarian starts with the broadsword, dwarf starts with the hand axe. Which
he can throw the hand axe and then it's lost once it's thrown. So he's just punching with his fists. He'd have one attack die. So don't do that. But you know, it's a way, I guess, to get the hand axe that a lot of people don't buy normally. So you got monster cards. Notice here they started putting keywords at the bottom of the monster description in Jungles of Delthrak, I believe. So they have categories of monster. Now at the start, there really are only two categories of monster. There's undead and there's all the other monsters. The undead have 0 mind points. They can be killed instantly by throwing holy water on them. If you have the Spirit Blade, which is a special artifact, you can attack them twice. And the way they handle double attacks now is only one of those attacks. Like if you direct 2 attacks against the same target, only one of them can be defended against. The other one's unblockable. So the victim chooses which one to roll against, and the other one you just take the damage. And actually, they did nerf Orc's Bane in this one because a lot of people were saying, well, it doesn't say you can't attack 2 orcs. You attack twice. What if you're flanking 2 orcs? You know, you could attack one adjacent orc and then the other adjacent orc with the Orc's Bane. Well, on the first light card, they say no, it's against a single orc only. So, okay, there you go. Now you can see the dragon card is behind this. Here we've got the actions. So again, this is the reference card. So talked enough about that. Moving on, other pictures. Okay, the border fort of Ingulden, quest 1. So they were made sure to cover up most of what the spoilers are. Of course, you can see the map, part of the map here. This was in the display case at Gen Con. So this was the quest that we played. This is the one that's in the app, the approved new version. So, but it is a 10 quest campaign. Intended for 4 heroes. There's no solo quests. Here is a closer view of the miniatures. And these are, of course, 3D renders. And the point is, they listen to fan feedback. So the dwarf is clearly carrying a hand axe, not a big battle axe, which is what he starts with. Now it looks like he's got a dagger there. He's got a shield. He doesn't start with a shield. This, I love this design. I think it's more of an action pose. So the original HeroQuest design of the dwarf was based on the mascot of Games Workshop White Dwarf magazine, the White Dwarf. He's got white hair, dark skin. He's resting on his axe like he's just chilling out in between battles. He's confident, you know, he's relaxed. But some people didn't like that. I didn't mind it. I thought it was kind of a maybe a little character moment for him. You know, he's so casual, or he's like, "Phew, what a fight!" So they wanted more of an action pose. So I think this is even further going with it, and this kind of reminds me of some of these Warhammer looking dwarf poses with the shield up and everything. So I like it. I think it's good. It's detailed. It's fun. And his proportions are pretty good too. He doesn't look like a giant baby. I mean, it was a bit of an exaggerated criticism I made of the very first images we saw of the dwarf. It's like he looks like a giant baby compared to the other heroes. So he looks pretty good. The wizard. So they gave him a full beard, so it's more mature wizard. He's got the fireball in his hand. This looks like an upgraded wizard. I mean, he's got a fancy cloak. It's even more fancy. It's not a cape this time. It's more of a, I don't know, a tunic over I don't know what you'd call that, but yeah, it's a more of an elaborate costume. Big staff resting on the ground. He's ready to go. Looks like he's got some bracers or van braces on. The barbarian is doing the Hulk Hogan finger point. I love it. He's got the huge sword in one hand, but he's not standing on rocks. So the remake version had him standing on rocks. He was like the only hero that was doing that. It's kind of weird. You didn't get an accurate depiction of his height and everything. It's like, oh, he's using terrain to fight. So that was a fan request. So it's a nice design. Painters will love these, I'm sure. They look very detailed. The elf is holding the sword with both hands. Does that matter? Not really, because they haven't changed the way the short sword works or the long sword. All the swords are one-handed weapons. You can use them with a shield, no problem. The only weapons you can't use with a shield in Hero Quest are the staff and the battle axe. Everything else can be used with a shield. And of course, the wizard doesn't get to use a shield anyway. But the other thing was, some people made fun of the what they call colloquially a boob plate, the sculpted armor on the chest, which, you can make a whole video series about that if you want to, but just standard armor, just kind of not accentuating the chest area there. But in the artwork, it still shows the same elf. I mean, we were just looking at the card art, so nothing had changed there. But this was something that some people wanted, so they just did a new design with that. Still a female elf, but of course you get the male elf in Mage of the Mirror. We got the dragon here. Now the wings are kind of washed out with the shadows, but you can see it's doing the "I'm gonna get you" pose, with the tail. Some people didn't like this, but there is kind of a story explanation, if you will, for this, without spoiling too much. Is that okay? I'll just give you a little hint. Imagine if you had a person transforming into a dragon. So like an anthropomorphic dragon. So just think about that and then think, does that design make sense? Of course, now he's got 4 fingers in each hand, 3 toes, but who knows? Was he a human before? But some humanoid dragon. All right, here's another just kind of spread out image of everything. These dragon scales, people were saying, oh, this looks like dragon scales. Well, now you know, it really was. But yeah, this is not just an imitation of Venom, the proprietary dragon from Crypt of Perpetual Darkness. It has different abilities, different stats. Here, as Bohemius pointed out, it's just the Barbarian card multiple times. But yeah, these things have been updated slightly. So that's just your basics. Now they've covered everything up so you can't see it. So the other picture showed more. But yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So we've got the old dice image, we've got the old cover image which has been changed. Notice they put the QR code in the front of these booklets so that you'll scan it and get the app, download the app. Okay, we're going through images here. So this was another picture and it showed the dice tray there. So it looks like cardboard. The character sheets are the same, except they've got kind of a purple tint to them, and it only shows 10 quests instead of 14 because there's only 10 in the box. The pad is smaller, at least the one they showed at Gen Con. It was not smaller in size, but like fewer sheets. So it's the one included with the big game system is thicker, has more. And of course, you can get more character sheets by buying the Frozen Horror, which has a slightly blue design, little icicles drawn on stuff, and has 10 quests there too. So there you go, the images, first light. And you'll notice these furniture images. My first thought was, oh, they just took the images straight from the app and just put them on cardboard. Actually, no. So these are stylistic representations, like sketches or drawings of the miniatures as if they were painted, but they're not just like photos of them or something like that. So they're kind of works of art in and of themselves. Now, see that staircase? That's just the reverse side of the spiral staircase. That's the same image that we always had. That's the throne right there. It's a single tile. There's the treasure chest, rats. Now, notice the mystery tile is still there. So all the stuff from the 2021 game system is in the box. It's just that the plastic furniture is converted into cardboard flats. The monsters are flat standees. Yes, it's the same image on both sides. It's the front of the monster. You got the same distributions of creatures, so 3 abominations, 1 gargoyle. 6 goblins. Notice how there's the different designs of goblins there. Well, actually, in this picture, they only show 2 designs of goblins. There was actually 3 designs. So that might be an error, or that might be something that I missed. There's only one type of mummy, only one type of zombie, one type of skeleton, one type of chaos or dread warrior, 4 of them. With the orcs, yeah, okay. They used only 2 types of orcs here. 4 of them with the big sword, and then 4 of the female orcs. Yeah, because there's more designs of orcs. Interesting. There's like 4 orc designs in the original box. So that might be something that I was wrong about. I thought that every single one had the equivalent, but maybe not. Because there's only supposed to be 2 of each of these, and then there's 2 others. There's an orc holding an axe, and there's another female orc holding a mace, like up above her head, and then there's the sorcerer. So there might be less variety in this box than I thought. But this is a digital mock-up, so some things. Oh, see, there's an error. This is not what the reference card looks like. This is what the old reference card looked like with the HeroQuest logo on one side. I mean, we've seen this before. We've seen. I remember when Spirit Queen's Torment was coming to retail. They showed in Prophecy of Telor. They were showing the rapier was like way more expensive. It was like 250 gold or something for it, and the wand they showed. Or no, it was 450 gold. It was way more than it was supposed to be. And then the wand, they showed the Wand of Magic artwork instead of the old artwork. And thankfully, it turned out to be fine. They didn't change it. But yeah, there's the boot tile right there. There's the boot. So, a nice little nostalgic nod and just letting us know, hey, we're listening. It's something easy we could put in. It's the only boot there. So yeah, image wise, okay, so I just picked this up from the website. This is just to show where in theory they could be selling HeroQuest in the future. This is not what they're doing right now, but we've got these are their retail partners. So from the past. Is JCPenney still in business? Kmart is closing a lot. So this could be older, but yeah, Kroger even, Macy's, Walgreens, eBay, Shop Disney, Meijer, Best Buy, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, Kohl's, GameStop, Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth. See, those are the more the ones I think of. Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth and GameStop are almost always there at the top of the list. Amazon, of course. Target now we know, Walmart, and then Pulse is just Hasbro's own store. But their MSRP, they almost never lower their prices. Usually they'll raise them, or occasionally very rarely they'll have a sale. But you could just imagine the stores and this list that are still in business anyway. What if you just walked in and there was HeroQuest? It's like, that's great. A Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth, those are digital stores. But there could be places where, you find the best deal, or it's out of stock one place, you find it somewhere else. Support your favorite store. This is the Hearthkin Horn. So this is the new artifact, and what does it do? Well, once you find it, spoilers, you blow the horn once, and then it just can never be used again. But it summons a skeleton for each hero that's in the game. So if you've got 4 heroes, you've got 4 skeletons now that fight for your side. And apparently they can move 8 squares. Otherwise, their stats are the same as regular skeletons, except they roll white shields for defense. So they're under your command. So it's a kind of like a stronger version of the Bone Wand from Mage of the Mirror, which allowed you to take control of the skeletons in the room or corridor with you for one turn. Here, this just gives you these allies. Now, I checked the app, and originally I thought you could use the Hearthkin Horn anywhere, but apparently you can only use it in First Light. So much for the idea of using it to give yourself NPCs and other expansions in the app. So this is the image captured. Spooky Happy Fun shared this, I believe, a better quality version. If there was a physical card for this artifact, this is what it would look like. So here it explains how it works. And the app is not always correct. Some things in the app are mistakes, like the cadre of the Raven's Veil in Rise of the Dread Moon, those elven mercenaries. And Carmine even told us they're supposed to be able to use anything. Like you could hand them a piece of equipment or a spell scroll and they could use it. You could give them a potion, they could use it. But in the app, it just says they can't do any of that stuff. But there's a difference. If you look at those mercenaries in Rise of the Dread Moon, it says they can do certain things and it leaves the rest for you to decide. Whereas Frozen Horror, it says they can do this and they can't do this. So it says what they can and cannot do. With these skeletons, though, when you look at them, they can't cast spells, they can't search for anything. All they can do is fight and open doors. So there you go. But it's kind of interesting. So I guess if they take away one of those duplicate cards, they could make a card here. But we got to remember there are some things in the app that are presented as if there could be a physical version, but there actually isn't. And that's happened before. In some of the mythic quests, we had like the spell scroll of Lightning Bolt. Didn't exist. It was a picture. There was a picture of a card inside the booklet, but there was no actual physical card. Now you could figure it out by looking at the dread spell and just write it on your character sheet. But nevertheless, it's possible that they'll have stuff that'll be in the quest book like this, like on the paper, but it just won't be a physical card. But if they wanted to, if they have time, they could make it into a physical card. But throughout HeroQuest, it's always been true that you've had new items and monsters that are described only in the quest notes. Like there's no special miniature for them. It's just use your imagination. But people always want to have a card and they always want to have a physical piece. But it always goes beyond. So anyway, that's a whole discussion about that. So this was just a picture I took of the old reference card from so it unlike that error in the picture, remember where it showed the HeroQuest logo card, it said reference card underneath it. So it is different, but yeah, that there's no equivalent of this in the new version. Instead, it's the two-sided one that we mentioned. It shows combat on one side, what to do on a turn on the other. And the text is actually different. So here it says disarm a trap on the square they are on. But if we go back and compare, now disarm a trap on the square you move onto. Now this gets into a bigger topic. I think we're done with these. Well, some of the pictures. Okay, there's a few more to look at. I was going to say, well, the question is, what's in the rule book? What rules might they talk about in the rule book? Maybe from other expansions to kind of introduce you to these new rules. Because I was thinking about the tournament rules. They are simplified in this one. You don't have the activation tokens. You don't have the special boost tokens that give you extra defense or attack or potions. There's no bone weapons. There's no extra treasure. So the arena fight is very simplified, but at least it introduces the idea so that when you do get to against the Overhorde, you've played First Light and you say, I want to try against the Overhorde next. Well, it gives you the next level version of that. So let's look at some more things. So this is what the app looks like now. When you go into First Light, you get Mentor's Greeting, you get the Border Fort of Ingolden. I don't know what it says when you win it. Like, does it say, hey, for more quests, watch the space? Because you would think eventually they will release all 10 quests. Because why wouldn't they? All the other expansions, the day it comes out, they try to have the app ready to go. Sometimes it's a few weeks later, a few months later. It's ready to go. You've got all the quests. So those people who play it solo or who don't want to play as Argon, they rely on stuff like the app. I mean, I know there's other systems out there of people creating solo modes with cards and stuff like that, tables, rolling dice to come up with ways so that you don't have to be Zargon, so you can just play against the computer, play against the game, make it fully cooperative.
But I think the game is better when Zargon is there, when it's a human being doing it. And sometimes you've only got two players. That's just how it is. We didn't mind controlling four heroes back in the day. Some people want other options. So there you go. But if you go back, if you roll back your version, here's what you see. And there's going to be some very light spoilers on the titles here. That's not the one I wanted to look at. Okay, that's 3. There we go. So this was what the app looked like in 4.0 or 4.1. You get a 4.2, it looks like this. So you'd be disappointed if you updated and you lost all that. But at some point, they're going to give you this stuff. So you can see all these quests. A meeting with Mentor in the middle there. Anyway, that's what it is. And this is, yeah, it says contains content updates and bug fixes. So what 4.2 did is it took away the cavern graphic. And it took away 9 of those first light quests. Everything else, as far as we can tell, is the same. It was a hasty update. But 4.0 clearly advertises that it's first light. So it was out for a few days. Here is a close-up image. It was shared by a fan on Amalgam Ash's archive, Ash Quest. So this is the card art of the dragon and the little icon used in the app there for you. This is what it looks like when you're looking through the app. You got first light at the very top. That's how they organize everything. That's what the other page looks like. Now, if you look at the Pulse exclusives, that's what these are. So Rogar's Hall is still not in there, unfortunately. Now, Dungeon Master shared this. This was swag, so stuff we all get. So these were the Mountain Dew dice. We called them that, given away at Spiel Essen. So it's not for the general public. They had this brief period of doing demos at Wizards of the Coast sponsored stores where they gave away these dice in like packs of 3. So they're transparent yellow with like a dark green image, and they're kind of hard to read. They're not as hard to read as the Jungle's Delthrak dice or the Dreadveil dice, but they're not perfect. If those images were white, um, it's better contrast. And they got this cool Zargon button or Mentor button. So shout out to Dungeon Master. Here was the official announcement from Avalon Hill Games. We announced HeroQuest First Light game system earlier this year. Now today at Spiel Essen or Spiel Mess, we announced it is time to place your pre-order with this new lowered price entry into the brand. We wanted to introduce more players to the world we all love so much. But for our beloved fans, we don't want to leave you out. First Light features a double-sided board, 10 fresh quests written by the original game designer Stephen Baker, 4 redesigned hero miniatures, and the new highly detailed dragon. Pre-order now, link in bio, blah, blah, blah. Pre-order available in the US at Target exclusively and at various retailers worldwide. And that's not all. We dropped the first quest from First Light in the HeroQuest app as a bonus. Check it out. Enjoy the sneak peek. And then, of course, they mentioned the fact that the companion app is meant to be played with the board game. So you need a treasure deck because it'll tell you to draw a card. Half the spells, it'll just say refer to the card. It won't even show a picture. And you have to know what's on there. It'll roll dice when the monster attack you, but it won't roll your defense dice. And when you attack monsters, it doesn't roll the monster defend dice. So there's still quite a bit of stuff that you have to do on your own. But it's supposed to be you're looking at the app, you move the stuff on the app, and then you do the stuff on the board to coincide with it. So it's a little slower than just playing it, but that's what it is. So this is the picture of the Target pre-order thing. And now let's get into an extended discussion of the rules here, what might be in there. Okay, this is going to contain speculation, and I don't know if this will become outdated after Dungeon Master's report, but we'll see. So I posted this on Yield In on October 1st with a couple of updates. But there was some discussion, and Dryan Kunan basically answered this one, and I have no reason to doubt him. But just based on my memory, it's like I couldn't quite remember exactly how it worked at Gen Con. But this whole question of sly storage, or as the app calls it, hidden cache, when you search for treasure in a room with a cupboard and there's no special note about treasure, the first hero gets to draw two treasure cards instead of one. But everybody else just does a normal search, and it's just a one-time thing. And the healing hearth is when you have the fireplace, and again, there's no special treasure note. The first hero who searches for treasure can either restore one lost body point from the sitting by the fire, or they can draw a treasure card. But only one hero gets to do the healing. Everybody else just does one treasure card, and you can't go back and do the healing again. So, but whoever uses the healing hearth, that uses up your treasure search. That makes sense to me. Unless Doug comes on and says, no, 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 wait, it's different. Or we see it written differently in the book. We just assume that's what it is. So these are special rules that are introduced specifically for First Light, and you could use them anywhere you wanted to if you want to. So I was thinking about other rules they could put in the book without making the book, 10 times bigger than it needs to be. Because HeroQuest prides itself on its simplicity, but we know that they explain the arena or tournament rules, tournament mode rules, which are from Against the Ogre Horde. But of course, since they're missing all those extra tiles, this would be like a simplified version of it. But then I thought, I wonder what other things they could have. Well, we do know that the entrance and exit doors are used, even though there aren't any entrance and exit doors included. Like we haven't seen any pictures of any iron doors, steel doors, or wooden exit doors, special doors like that. So what do you do in that situation? Well, if you don't have any lying around, you just use an open door on the edge of the board, or a closed door on the edge of the board, and you just open it, or you tilt it to the side, or you remove it, and people just go through. But they could explain that in the main rule book. Oh, by the way, this is how it works if you see that. Zargon's imagination, they could just refer to the fact that, hey, they want you as Zargon to make a decision. Like if something's ambiguous, if there's a conflict, if something's not working, and it'll make it more fun. Use your imagination, your experience to come up with a solution. And they already tell Zargon remix the quest if you're replaying it. Use the blank map to your advantage. Create something new, create something fun. But I think putting it in the rules, like they did for Mage of the Mirror and Frozen Horror, is a big deal because a lot of people who are new to the game maybe don't feel like they're empowered to do that, and this is encouraging them to do it. Treasure. So a lot of the expansions do say, hey, when you get a big uh, gold reward, you should divide it among the heroes to avoid conflicts. So that's something they could put in there. Selling equipment. They don't mention this until Frozen Horror, Mage of the Mirror, or New Beginnings to say, hey, you can sell any piece of equipment you don't like that has a gold value back to the armory in between quests at half price. So if it was 100 gold item, you sell it back for 50, and you round it down. So a dagger is like 12 gold to get back. Passing items between heroes. So when it's your turn, you can pass an item to an adjacent ally, as long as there's no monster adjacent to either one of you. The part about the monster being adjacent is the only thing that people would maybe not know about. Again, Mage of the Mirror, Frozen Horror. Going into Shock, well, I don't recall if there's anything that makes you lose mind points in First Light, but in a lot of the other expansions, mind points are used much more. So if you go to 0 mind points, what happens? Well, in Return of the Witch Lord, you can go unconscious. In Keller's Keep, you can die. But generally, in the new Hero Quest, whenever you go to 0 mind points, you are reduced to 1 attack die, 2 defend die, and 1 die for movement. But if you ever raise your mind points above 0, like with a Potion of Restoration, then you're out of shock. And of course, in between quests, your mind points and body points are restored anyway, most of the time, except for those 2-part quests, sometimes 9 to 10. You don't get restored. But yeah, your mind points just come back and you're out of shock. So if people thought, oh no, I'm permanently in shock, no. They don't have to explain mercenaries, but the next part, animal companions. So that's something mentioned Into the Northlands, Against the Ogre Horde, and Jungles of Delthrak, which is to say if you have less than 4 heroes, most quests are designed for 4 heroes. Less than 4 heroes, each hero could have an animal companion. Now some people wonder, wait a minute, is the animal companion just taking the place of one of the heroes? So it'd be 3 heroes and 1 animal companion? Or would it be 3 heroes, each with their own animal companion? So 3 animals, 3 heroes. Anyway, they could clarify that. And then what would you use for the animal companions? Because there aren't any specific miniatures or standees for them. Well, you could use the way Into the Northlands does it, is to say the little mystery tile, the little Zargon shield eye thing, that just, you say, oh yeah, that's a wolf. That's a friendly wolf that helps you. Unthreatened movement. So this was where they said, okay, for each red die you'd normally roll, if there's no monsters on the board, the heroes can just move that many squares. So if you normally roll 2d6 to move, you can move 8 squares. If you normally roll 1d6, 1 red die, then you move 4 squares. Or you could decide to roll, but I mean, yeah, rolling, you could get anywhere from 1 to 6 on each of those dice. So it's kind of a theoretical way to speed up gameplay, and it's something Avalon Hill used themselves in their playtesting. Multi-attacks. So this is something that would be helpful if they mentioned it in the rule book, explaining that when you direct more than 1 attack in a turn at the same target, that target only gets to defend 1 time. So if you use the Heroic Brew to attack like a skeleton twice, well, you rolled once and you got, let's say, 3 skulls. This other time you rolled and you only got 1 skull. Well, the skeleton decides which one to defend against. Of course, they're going to get killed because at best they can get 2 black shields and they're going to get killed by the 3. But yeah, that's something that's explained in the Rogue Heir of Elethorn. It's explained in Frozen Horror only for the Polar Warbears. So if they explain multi-attacks early, that could be a way to avoid confusion down the line. Because you can do multi-attacks right at the beginning. Orc's Bane, you're going to be doing 2 attacks against a single orc. Heroic Brew, yeah, can you split the attack between 2 different monsters? I don't think it says you can't. Okay. Turn order options. So in Jungles of Delthrak, they said, yeah, every round. So there's the heroes round and there's the Zargon round. Heroes round, you get the 4 heroes in whatever order they started in. Zargon does all his monsters after the heroes have done their thing, of course. Well, in Jungles of Delthrak, they said, yeah, each new round, the heroes can decide, okay, we're going to change up the order, which is pretty interesting, pretty cool. So you might want to put the wizard first, so his spells have more possibility of effect and not getting countered right away. So that could be something they could put in. Incapacitated. So Jungles of Delthrak introduced this option wherein they said, well, instead of just dying, like a character dies, goes down to 0 body points, they either have to have healing potion or haven't used an action yet and have an unused healing spell to bring themselves above 0 and not be out of the game. Well, Jungles of Delthrak gave you other options. They said, well, one of them is to say you just become incapacitated. So you go down to 0, you don't have a chance to save yourself. You just go down. You put the little I think you put an equipment tile down, or you lay the miniature on its side, and you're supposed to put a skull tile And so you get around for somebody else, some other hero to come adjacent to you and use a potion, a healing potion on you, which is normally not how it works. Normally you pass a potion to someone and then they drink it. It's like you pour the potion on them, you administer the potion to them, or administer the healing spell to them, and then they come back to life. They're fine. But if they don't do it within the round, then they die for real. And then yet the third option that they give you in Jungles of Delthrak is to say, well, there isn't a skull token. You just go incapacitated. Someone can heal you. But if there's no monsters on the board, each hero that's incapacitated gets a body point back, and they're just automatically alive again. And the only way you can lose in that story mode that they call it, it's heroic and story mode. Yeah. Normal, heroic, story mode. Yeah. So then the story mode one, if all the heroes are incapacitated at the same time, then you lose. Then Zargon wins. Then I just wondered, will they advise the wizard to save his gold? That would be, if they do tell him to save his gold for later. I mean, yes, it could be referring to the fact that once the wizard buys everything he needs, which is like, okay, he can buy a toolkit, he could buy a staff, maybe some daggers, bracers, then that's it. Well, later on, he could still buy potions. He can always buy more potions. He can always hire mercenaries if they're available. But in the original version from 1990, well, the North American version, it said, wizard, save your gold for later expansions where powerful magical items will become available. Well, the Wizard Quest Pack was never released. So if they revise that and tell him to save his stuff for future expansions, that would be maybe our clue that they have changed their mind and decided that they will be releasing the Wizard Quest Pack. So I'm just curious about that small little thing. Because they could just delete it completely. Why would they say, Wizard, save your gold? Save it for what? Why not just give your gold away to the other heroes or save it for potions or whatever? Then there's the very small detail about the orc with a large sword. Well, if they're changing it now so that there's three orcs with large swords in the box still, even with the standees, why would you say that? Because, I mean, you have two types of orcs. I guess you could have one with a large sword and then three others in the same room. I guess it would still work out. But originally, you had one orc that was unique in the sculpt from all the others. And so you'd use him instead of one of the others. So now questions about line of sight with the crossbow, like can you hit the four diagonal squares? I doubt that's going to be answered. But it would be interesting to see what else they do. So that's basically it. I've rambled on quite a bit about First Light, and we'll see at the end of the day here if there's any new updates or if we have to wait for Luca in a couple of weeks. But thanks for listening. Bye.